Hello. For the past several weeks, I have been road tripping around the Rocky Mountains, and now I've returned home, and it's time to recover and get back to work. These road trips are definitely a worthwhile experience, and I'm so grateful to be able to do something like that. But they result in a pretty serious toll on the body, and I believe this is largely due to long hours spent driving, and my living situation is pretty compact, and so I have to adapt to a less integrous shape, perhaps. Um, so this chair I'm sitting in now is flat and firm, and so my body has to do more in order to support itself, to hold its shape, versus a car seat, which is very soft and round in a not human way. And so our bodies sort of melt into the seat, and we're molded by it, especially if we spend a lot of time in it. And so through driving for many hours, it became easily recognizable to me, a pattern that I have. And so this left shoulder is not very stable compared to my right, which is hyper stable, for lack of a better phrase. So this left one wants to rise up, whereas this right one wants to get pulled back into a tighter position. And so to exaggerate it, if I'm driving, I'm kind of like this. And so I have to release those tensions that are building up in order to straighten back out. So another problem with the seats in a car are that they make it nearly impossible to sit upright, like I can do here. I'm relaxed, but I'm erect. I generally will do that on the edge of a chair because the seat of a chair can push my legs up in a weird way. This one's nice and flat, so it's not so much a problem. But because of the shape of a chair in a car, how they're often, as described as bucket seats, they dip down and then round back, and then also the headrest pushes your head forward. A lot of unsupporting factors. Well, they're supporting in the sense that they make you adopt a really passive position, which I suppose can support long hours of driving because you're using a minimum of energy. But again, this results in very compromised positions. And then it becomes a pattern. And so I'm able to sit upright, relaxed, erect, and then if I only move at the hips, I can translate this into a leaning back shape, although it's quite hard at the edge of a chair, so I would do that maybe more. Well, ideally my butt would be in the back of the chair. And I can take this nice spine shape and then be even more relaxed by moving only at the hips. And now my back is supported by the back of the chair. Now, unfortunately, I'm not aware of any way to mitigate these problems while driving. It's just the nature of the vehicles and the seats that we're in while operating these vehicles. But I am pleased to say that because I've been training the integrity of my spine for a while now, I was able to maintain a greater degree of integrity. Or differently phrased, I was not forced to compromise the integrity to the degree that I have in the past. And for example, I spent part of this trip with family, and so I wasn't driving, and I was a passenger. And I was taking advantage of this opportunity by napping. And so the position I would sleep in, this was the door, I would lie back and rest my head in that nook between the door and the headrest. And so my spine does collapse some, but it doesn't mold all the way to the seat because it's able to support itself. And so it remains relatively neutral. And thankfully, I was able to switch sides of the car so I could alternate my sleeping position. And this is definitely not an ideal sleeping position, but it was sustainable. And another nice thing is my bed situation in my truck camper was basically just board of plywood in order to remove the ridges of the bed of the truck with some cushion on top. It's very firm, but because I've trained the integrity of my spine, I'm lying on this flat surface and my body isn't dipping down in order to meet the shape of the surface that I'm lying on. I'm supported by my shoulders, hips, and of course head on a pillow. And from these points of contact, my spine in between is able to remain relatively horizontal. And this is all a byproduct of training. And so now I will demonstrate some techniques in order to help establish a more integrous spine so that we can all drive, sleep, and live in a more sustainable way. Sitting. I have made a video in the past covering this and described and demonstrated how to do so in a sustainable way. The main idea is letting go of unnecessary tension. If you're not used to sitting upright, supporting yourself with your own body rather than leaning back into a chair, then it might feel like you have to build tension in order to hold your body upright. This is not the case. So we're aiming for spinal flexion, not deep lumbar flexion like I demonstrated, and we're trying to avoid excessive lumbar extension like I demonstrate right here. But we're relaxing into a generally flexed, relaxed spine. And the main point of focus is our thoracic spine, especially the upper portion of this where it meets our neck. If we focus on relaxing into flexion at this upper thoracic spine, this lengthens this portion of our spine, and we don't so much have to worry about what our lumbar and neck are doing as long as they remain relaxed, but not totally dumped and not extended, of course. And we breathe into this posterior rib cage to emphasize a flexed thoracic spine. And so now, as you can see, with my left knee forward, the left side of my body is in the same shape that it was in while I was sitting, but my right leg is now in extension. And because I've been sitting in a chair for a long time, my hips have been in a static, flexed position for a long time. And so it's important to work on extension in order to refamiliarize my hips with their capacity to open up fully in this range of motion. And so again, I'm maintaining the same shape of my spine that I was while sitting, same shape that it's in while in quadruped or any position that we train, but I'm releasing the tension that's trying to pull my right hip into flexion and allowing it to extend fully. I don't need to push into a deeper stretch here. Simply maintaining this position, breathing, and relaxing further is very advantageous. But if I'm able to maintain this position easily, then I can relax closer to the bench, thus allowing my hip to extend further. Spending time in these positions makes them a habit. We're making good habits. Good luck.